right, I'll call to order the Thursday, August 20th meeting of the Executive Committee for the Northwestern Indiana Regional Plan Commission. Will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and please enjoy the industriousness here of the Construction Advancement Foundation constructing American flagpoles. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I will ask everyone to please remain standing. That one of the things I like to do when I have the opportunity to lead public meetings or speak with any group of folks is to encourage the inclusion of physical activity in your regular routine. The experts recommend if you include around 30 minutes of physical activity of some sort in your daily routine, it greatly reduces your risk towards chronic disease. Chronic disease makes up about 70% of our healthcare spending, the management of those diseases. So for our time together, then we'll just do a little bit of physical activity, and it's a very simple one. I think we've done mostly arms previously, so we're just going to do a very easy, almost like you're sitting down, but you're not going to quite sit down, and you'll sit down and then get back up, just like that. It's like a squat, but not too hard. So just kind of like this. All right, very good. So you've knocked off at least like 30 seconds. Great job. Thank you very much. Sure. And before we go too much further, I want to thank all the folks at the Construction Advancement Foundation for their assistance in lending us this space that we're still under construction over at our spaces in the building across the street. So thank you very much to everyone here who has been so supportive of that.
Dewey Pierman is right there in the back, who heads up this organization, and just want to publicly say thank you for your graciousness.
The next item that we have on the agenda is an appointment to the commission, and I'll turn to Ethan Lowe, who is standing in for Dave Hollenbeck.
Can I just say quick, Dave told me to tell you he apologizes. We have this conflict with the RDA meeting at the same time, and he needed to be at the RDA meeting. But he told me to say that Ethan is smarter than he is. So it's a lot of pressure. There you go.
We'll be the judge of that.
Good morning, everyone. We do have one appointment this morning, and it's from the LaPorte County Council. The individual that they're appointing is Carrie Kirkham, who's my understanding is not here this morning, but I have reviewed the certificate of appointment, and it is in proper form.
Thank you. The next item that we have is the approval of minutes from the June 23rd meeting. All members of the executive board received a copy of those minutes, and so I would entertain a motion for approval of the minutes as submitted.
Have it.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions to the minutes?
It wasn't a full commission meeting, it's just the executive, right?
Correct. Any other questions, discussion, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Then the minutes are approved. That takes us to then the report of the chair. A couple of things that I wanted to bring you up to speed on. First off, we have a resolution that you have in your packet regarding the Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission support of our application to the Regional Cities Initiative. If you'll recall at our last meeting that was an executive committee meeting, that we talked a little bit about what the application for the Regional Cities Initiative is. I'm sure that Heather Ennis can speak a little bit to this as well, as she's been a part of the collective effort from folks in both regions around here of the Northwest Indiana RDA, and then there's an RDA that's being formed to the east with St. Joe County, Marshall County, and Elkhart to be able to support primarily some infrastructure growth for NICD, which we received information on at a previous commission meeting of all of the different infrastructure growth that they're looking to have to provide greater service, faster service into the Chicago market. And so those are the bulk of the plans for the Regional Cities Initiative. What you see in the packet before you with Resolution 15-22 is NERC's support towards these efforts that as the groups are coalescing and coordinating with one another to try and support these initiatives. I think that this is well within our scope within NERC as we look at transportation across the region, that the enhancement of the NICD lines serving it, the South Shore Rail, passenger rail into the Chicago market is a great opportunity for our communities across the region. And I would encourage some discussion on this and hopefully a motion for support of adopting this resolution. I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any further questions or discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the resolution supporting the Regional Cities Initiative, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? And that is adopted. Thank you very much. And that takes us to a report on the committee structure that we did adopt the new committee structure at our last full commission meeting, which I think was back in May timeframe?
May 21st.
And so at our last meeting that we had that ended up being executive board, we sent out the committee preference sheets, and thank you to everyone who submitted a response on some of those. That we have a number of those that we've collected. I'm in the process of going through with Ty on trying to plug people into the various spots that they've requested, and as you'll recall, there are some different structures for some of the committees that we want to make sure that we're balancing the representation amongst that for everyone. That should be out here shortly. We're in the process of populating those committees. And once that's out, I mean, this is an initial draft to try and get things rolling for where these committees are going to be moving for the future. I would welcome any feedback. If somebody says, I just absolutely can't make the schedule work, or I have no interest in those particular areas, then we can work on trying to shuffle some things around. And this is not meant to be some authoritarian edict of where everyone has to sit. So I will welcome feedback, but we do want to get the committees rolling here shortly, so that hopefully we'll have all of that in place and be ready to go by next year to have a fresh start with the new leadership that'll come in at the beginning of the year to have everybody in a place where they feel comfortable at. So that'll be out shortly, and we are still having some discussion that we had some feedback from from one of the transit operators of a question on being able to have representation for one of the larger transit operators, and so we're working to set up a meeting with those individuals to see if there's an opportunity to assuage some of the feedback that we've gotten from that particular group, while also making sure that we're balancing fair representation by all of the groups and the regions overall. So that's where things stand with the committee process at the moment, and you should have the information out shortly of what the first recommendation is for membership of all of the committees. And so I think that concludes my report, and so I will turn to Ty Warner for the report of the Executive Director.
Great, just a few things. First of all, again, we're meeting here because our space is under construction over across the street. It's definitely a construction zone over there, but coming along really, really well. Just so you know the time frame, we should be moving in as staff at the beginning of September. And if we recall the whole phasing plan on the forum, Heather Ennis and her crew should be moving into their new space, I think the end of September, I believe. The upshot of everything for this group, I think I might have mentioned this before, but we will not have access to our auditorium space over there until next year, so January or February. We'll keep you posted, but we will need to keep meeting off-site. I don't want to impose on Dewey's graciousness, but we'll be talking to CAF and figuring out what we can do for the remaining meetings. So we won't be back again over at NERC until that time. That said, we do have a number of small meeting rooms over there that will be available, so we can still have smaller meetings at the NERC space. We just won't be able to have the large meetings there. Personally, I liked it over here a lot, Dewey. This is great. I love the fact that we can go climbing on equipment after this meeting is over, so thank you.
We would encourage you not to do that.
I thought you said, that was my subtle way of giving you an opportunity to say don't climb on equipment. Very good. So that's been great. And I also want to publicly again thank Heather and her staff. When we had a water main break, not only was I already over there with the forum when we were starting construction, but we had a water main break that forced everybody to get out of the section of our building sooner than expected, which was actually a good thing that it happened now and not after the new carpeting and drywall and everything was in. So it was actually really a blessing and allowed that section to get completed faster. But Heather's been just absolutely super. We have multiple staff over sharing space at the forum, and even more staff all in the auditorium space, where it's basically a sea of desks in there. And if you've been in the lobby, or if you made the mistake of going over to the building before coming here, you would have seen that there are desks and drafting tables and things set up in the lobby. So it's definitely a different world, but we're actually excited about the new space, and I think it's going to be really, really nice. Furniture gets delivered next week, so we should be ready to move in pretty soon. Also, just before I forget, also want to thank our friends from INDOT. Rick's got his section later in the agenda, but we have other staff from INDOT here today that came up from Indianapolis to see us and be with us today, so they wanted to come a little bit earlier and spend time with you all and be able to see how we do things here. So welcome, INDOT staff. On the federal level for transportation, just a quick update on federal transportation authorization. The Senate passed, you may have read about this, passed the DRIVE Act. I can't remember what the DRIVE Act stands for. It's another clever acronym like MAP 21 and ICE-T and Safety Lou and all the rest. But the current version from the Senate is the DRIVE Act. And that did pass out of the Senate for 6 years, but still needs to go to the House. Overall, working with our partner organizations such as the National Association of Regional Councils, overall, I think most groups are happy with what the Senate had passed. There is one item in there that has to do with Surface Transportation Program funding. And the way it reads right now, it would actually reduce the amount of STP funds for localities. There was an amendment that was put forward to correct that, but the way that passed out of the Senate, it did not allow for amendments to take place. So I had notified our 2 senators about the situation and about that amendment, but I can't remember the formal technical process that did not allow for that. But an amendment was not allowed to be put on the floor, so it passed without that amendment. But there is still the opportunity as it goes to the House, and the House will reconvene, I think, in August. The funding was extended and pushed, patched basically until October 29th. So extended a little bit further. We're in the same situation of funding essentially getting extended. And again, as a summation, the Senate did pass something, the House has to take it up, and we hope that that STP issue can be corrected in what comes out of the final bill. Jeff was also, we passed like ships in the night because there was an executive director's training at NARC that I was part of, which is a great opportunity to join with my peers across the country. And then there was a NARC board meeting following that. Jeff arrived after I left or whatever, so I didn't actually get to see Jeff in Austin, Texas, but we both shared some 104-degree weather while we were there. So it was a very good discussion about what's in that DRIVE Act and what to expect. I don't know, Jeff, if you have any other tidbits from your meetings to share.
Not really, just waiting to see if they can be patched in the House.
So that is that. Another transportation item, this actually is on your agenda. You'll see a memorandum of agreement in there to cooperate on high-speed rail between Chicago and Columbus. You may recall I mentioned at a future meeting there is a environmental impact study already for the Chicago to Detroit high-speed rail line that is out. These groups have been these communities along this rail line have been cooperating for some time, and we've been a part of that, to try to create environmental impact study and get the funding to do that, Tier 1 and EIS, for high-speed rail from Chicago to Columbus. The communities along that route that are named in that agreement have already signed it. For our region, in the initial report, there was a stop identified, this is all malleable, but there is a stop identified at the Gary Chicago Airport, and then another one in Valparaiso. Mayor Freeman Wilson and Mayor Costas have signed this agreement already. It was originally just constructed to have the communities along the line sign it, but recently they asked for the NPOs to come back and sign it. It does not commit us to any funding. We offered, staff support and data, et cetera, just to help. It's identified within our 2040 plan that we're supportive of high-speed rail. So all this does is just memorialize that we will be cooperating with the entities along that line. And what I'm basically asking for and why it's on the agenda is for your blessing for me to sign the MOA. So that's what I'm requesting.
I would ask for a motion to adopt the MOA.
Could I ask Ty, he mentioned in the meeting this morning, you want to talk about our 50th anniversary?
I could. It's not necessarily related to the MOA, but I'd be glad to talk
Okay.
about that before I get done. Absolutely.
Maybe
Thanks,
before
Bob.
you're done.
I'll make a motion to approve the MOA.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
in the population here in Indiana Lake County, I suspect your intent was to put the total population of Lake County as the other populations that are cited, including county and cities. Okay, I want to correct that.
Any other items for notice? Any other questions or discussion? All right, hearing none, then all those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Then Mr. Warner is now authorized to sign that MOA with the corrected population numbers for Lake County.
Great. Thank you. Bob, thank you. So a lot of hoopla is happening. We'll have, related to the office construction, we'll plan to have some kind of open house next year. Heather and I have talked about doing something jointly, and whenever everything's said and done, we'll have that. But as I mentioned at the Finance and Personnel Committee this morning, next year marks NERCC's 50th anniversary, believe it or not. And there was a whole lot of hoopla happening that year. It's also the state's 100th anniversary. It's the National Park Service 100th anniversary. 200, sorry.
State, that's what I did.
Thank you. It's the state parks anniversary. It's the, there's just a ton of stuff.
Porter County
So,
anniversary.
beg your pardon?
Porter County also.
Porter County, it just,
It's also my wife and I's anniversary.
fantastic. Mr. Pillar's wife's anniversary as well. So, it's a big year. 2016 is a big year. So we're moving into the space just in time to start kicking it off. So that open house may be our kind of kickoff for the celebration. We've got some ideas germinating on how to celebrate that, but that's more a heads up that that's happening next year. The last thing I just want to give a congratulations to is the quarterfinalists of the America's Best Communities have been announced. And so kudos to both the Hub of Awesome and the Vale of Paradise. Both LaPorte and Valparaiso are in those finals. So congratulations to both of those communities to make it thus far in this process. And that's all I have, unless you have any other questions for me.
Right. Then we will move on to the report of the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Good morning, Madam Chair. The Finance and Personnel Committee met this morning. And there are two items on the agenda that has to be approved by the Executive Committee. The first item on the agenda is a budget amendment. The city of Hobart and the city of Portage, they intend to do a bus transportation feasibility study, and they received FTA funding for the study. It's an 80-20 match where the FTA provides 80% and those two individual communities provide the 20%. The total amount of revenue for each study is $149,610. And so we need to make an amendment to the NERC budget to include this new revenue. And so my first motion is to approve the 2015 budget amendments to the NERC budget to include these additional revenue sources. I'd like to make that motion.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor of adoption, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? And that is
Thank
approved.
you. The second item on the agenda is the contracts for the feasibility studies. The contract for the feasibility studies will be done by SRF Consulting Group. And SRF Consulting Group will do the contracts for both communities. And in your folder, starting on page 17, you have the agreement between NERC and SRI Consulting Group. And you have one agreement for the city of Hobart, and you have a subsequent agreement for the city of Portage. And so I'd like to make a motion to approve these two agreements for these two communities so that they can begin the process of the feasibility study.
I have a motion, and is there a second? I have a second. Any questions or discussion?
I'm sorry, who's the second?
Mr. Hardaway.
Okay, let's be the executive board.
Oh, okay.
Second.
Second. Any questions or discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of adoption, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? None is approved.
Okay, there was a review of the financial status of NERC, and there were no financial issues to report. That concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. That takes us to transportation, and I'll actually turn to Mr. Warner on this.
Yeah, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the meeting, these items actually need to be removed from this agenda. They'll be picked up in September. In conversations with FHWA and with NDOT, we're not quite ready to act on these today. So they'll be going to the Transportation Policy Committee meeting in September and then to the full commission in September for action. So we're moving those from this agenda.
Well, that then fast tracks us to the report from Mr. Powers and NDOT.
I don't have a great deal, except we basically recarved the district. I was like, you were supposed to laugh.
Are we still in
I
it?
laughed. You are. It's basically just a realignment of resources. We noticed last winter, as a result of previous realignment, that we could have done a better job on the east side of the district. The South Bend area, this stretch that the port side, sort of then. We had fleet issues and any number of things throughout the winter. So in preparation for construction of the Plymouth sub, I think early next year anyway, we just reopened that sub in its previous location, realigned assets, resources, took the sub-district manager and placed them out there, and we're hoping again to have better coverage on the east side of the district this winter as a result. It's already paying dividends in our maintenance work program, so we hope that just translates into the winter. That being said, the Monticello sub is also reopening and pushing resources south, so we now have those added resources in the Plymouth area. Shouldn't be anything to you, it should be transparent relative to the service, other than improved service, I should say transparent. Probably not going to be static, it should increase what we do. That being said, there's not a whole lot more to add other than the type of service you get. Everything is still going to work fine, actually I hope better, and that's all I have to add.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I have a question. Do you have any information as far as the current status of the Klein Avenue Bridge? I know we're moving forward pretty fast with the Gary Airport now. We have the runway completed, and we're making a lot of progress there. But we were concerned about the Klein Avenue Bridge because that's a primary critical link from that airport into the Chicago Loop area. You know, using that Klein Avenue Bridge, you get into the Chicago Loop in about 20 minutes. And so we're yeah.
Maybe, Madam Chair.
Sure, please do.
We spoke with them this week. Actually, what they've done is bundled the financing of the project into a bigger package that's over $1 billion. And the principal is planning to have some meetings and actually going to be renting, buying, whatever, some office space so that questions can be answered and so forth. So it's near and dear to a lot of us. We did some inquiries. The permits, there are rumors all over, but the best I could ascertain, the one I'm always fascinated by is the Army Corps, and they seem to feel all the permits are appropriately aligned, and makes us all uncomfortable with pace. But again, it's a lot of money, and that's always been the issue. So this is not a finance project; it is all cash, and they are raising the money. From testimony before my committee was they are raising the cash from 200 of the wealthiest entities in America. So it would be cash with no interest. So I had one thing. Rick, it hasn't been as big a deal up here, but in central Indiana and southern Indiana, the issue of the I-65 bridges. This hopefully, being age 70 is amazingly liberating. So we have been putting together for the last 2 years a tool, House Bill 1104 mandated that INDOT contract with an outside entity to create a decision-making tool for road funding. And the tool basically turned out far more robust than what I had anticipated when I wrote the bill. I don't think any other state has it. INDOT will probably be bringing it either in September or October to the interim study committee. I've seen it, Chairman Brown has seen it from Ways and Means. Across the top of, think of it as a spreadsheet, across the top are all the ways you can fund road funding, good, better, best, as defined by a positive metric. And what it has done, if we can load almost anything in, people come to me and say, you've got to do something with road funding, and they'll say, I'll support a 3 cent a gallon gasoline tax increase, and that's 1% yields 30 million. We need 300 million additional dollars this year just to stabilize where we are, because bridge, one of the metrics we use is bridges in poor condition, and we're in the 6-7% arena. We'd like to be lower than that, but we continue to decline. The tool works clear out to 2030. So if you plug in 3%, it'll show you what will happen with gasoline tax versus inflation, and so forth. So,
when you say stabilize where we are you referring to
in other words, we'd
infrastructure
stay about 6
or-
to 7%.
Well, just state highways or all?
No. If you look at the locals for what data we can collect, now the last data that we were able to get was when the MPOs all banded together. The cities were not very good at delivering this data, and we gave them metrics, as I shared with you and Mayor Costas. And the best suppliers of information were the MPOs. And the counties were not particularly strong, but if we were able to compile data on the counties, I think you would find that their bridges in poor condition far exceed those of the state. So we are still trying to, my view as chairman in the House committee has been the best way to win an argument is with data, not emotion, not with cliches and so forth. And we've gotten a lot further. We've got 400 million that we didn't get before. But just to stabilize at where we're at, we need 300 million more starting this year. We need roughly $1 billion for INDOT to make an improvement, to take us to the better, and just keep in mind that there are 11,000 miles of state highways. There are 88,000 miles of local and county roads. So it's across America that we have these issues. I've been speaking, that's why I've missed a lot of these meetings around the country and various groups about funding, and my view of life is it should be a bipartisan issue, had been for many, many years. So we'll be trying to do something, but I would just encourage NERC and the members to work with us so we have good data to argue. Now, we used as a standard concrete. People always say, well, you know the toll road up there, we paid for it with the tolls. No, he didn't. The mortgage was never paid. It got paid off in the deal. And at the end of the mortgage payment, the bond payment, 30 years, in that age of technology of concrete is breaking up, and you need to replace it all the way to the clay. And generally, the guideline for asphalt is you need to reskin it at least at 12 years. So we use that as a standard for the state. Some of the mayors have looked at it, and some of them I've been talking to, and they've said, wow, that's a lot of money. Wow, that is a lot of money. But I will say to you, and I said it down at a meeting 2 days ago, or whenever it was, in southern Indiana, a lot of conservatives talk about the national debt and handing it to our children. If this were a business and we had to show depreciation of the asset of our roads and bridges, that is just the biggest debt that we are handing to our kids, because you cannot run an economy without an infrastructure system. So I listened to Senator Einhoff a month ago, not a notorious liberal, who stood up and said conservatives need to recognize that infrastructure is a conservative agenda item, just as it is a liberal or a whatever. We have to take care of the infrastructure. So that'll be my sermon after I've been gone for a while. This is a big deal. The thing I was going to ask Rick to comment on, or I can do from what I know, we had two events down by Lafayette on bridges. The first one was a bridge that was already on the agenda. It was the southbound lane at the Wabash River. We had a corrosion issue with a beam that was repaired in about 3 days, and the permanent repair is part of the 2020 money we got a couple years ago. The other one, the issue is an artesian well that opened up and started to wash away the structure. The support structure got into sand. Sand started to wash away. We got it in time. We are having some discussions about the detour. I-65 needs to be a 6-lane road, border to border. I drive it regularly. It's important to all of our economies. There are more vehicles, trucks, crossing the Indiana-Illinois state line than any place else in the world on any given day. And much of that traffic comes up I-65. So the diversion, there's a lot of pressure because of a social media sheriff's statement that a stoplight was appropriate. There is some concern that a stoplight will cause abrupt stops, and we've already had, in the last 2 years, multiple deaths with construction zone rear endings. So the discussion as of yesterday was, this is not stalling. The discussion is that the current mode is to put the squad cars out, slow the traffic, move them into 1 or 2 lanes as appropriate, and start slowing the traffic several miles back, as opposed to a stoplight where their abrupt stops are. I think we need to let engineers decide that. So I had conversations myself with INDOT and said, you know, we need to make not the political decision, but the technical safest decision. So Rick, that's what I know. You can build on it.
Did a great job, Representative. There is a plan, use of micropilings for those of you who are in the engineering world. Basically, it's a series of rods that are going to be networked out away from the existing structure to try to shore up basically the foundation in that area for the bridge, which we hope, again, will stabilize it as we move forward with construction. That is the plan and the engineer plan to that point, and Representative, you did a great overview. So I really wouldn't offer anything more other than if you have any specific questions in that regard. The issue right now is traffic. On most days, I think we're looking at about 45 minutes added to the commute coming north or south. Down it took me about 45 minutes, and that was the day before yesterday. So it's not the best case scenario. People are asking why so far south, and again, that had to do with not making abrupt stops, making traffic off of an exit, making a left turn to find a state highway and get north. 52 is logical in that regard because the flow of traffic getting back onto 65 is a greater challenge, and that's our bottleneck is. But we hope in the short term we're trying to get to that point where we can stabilize it from traffic. But beyond that, you did a great job.
Mayor?
I've been coming to NERC meetings for a long time. One of the issues that's always been brought up since the Pine Avenue Bridge has gone down is the status, and it seems like, and no disrespect whatsoever, but it seems like when we always talk about the status, there's never really hard dates. It's always, this is happening, you know, but we need something to happen. I mean, this is unacceptable what's gone on for the last 6 years in Northwest Indiana. It's having a deteriorating effect on our infrastructure in Hammond, and I would dare say Whiting, East Chicago, and Gary are suffering the same side effects that we have to suffer on a daily basis. And until this bridge is built, these trucks are going to continue to use our cities as shortcuts, and they're ruining our infrastructure. And nobody's in a big hurry. And I realize that what's happening on I-65 is far different than what happened with the Pine Avenue Bridge. I wouldn't even compare the two. I wouldn't, because they're not. It's not a similar situation. But the reaction of NDOT makes me proud. I think you guys are doing a good job addressing a serious situation, and you're responding to it. But my residents come up to me and said, where was that, where was that same type of attitude from NDOT when the Pine Avenue Bridge went down? Because there was really no thought whatsoever into rebuilding this bridge. It was just, the bridge is broken, costs $100 million to fix it, we're not interested. And I get asked about this weekly. I really do, and especially when we have infrastructure failures like we've had. And another thing I'm being asked about is, well, how much is it going to cost me on this toll bridge? Is it going to cost me both ways? How much is it going to cost, Mayor? I mean, and if I'm a commuter and if I have to pay both ways, I have to drive to a steel mill, am I going to drop $3.50, whatever the toll is, both ways to go to and from work? No. I'm going to jump on the local streets. There's no way I'm paying $6 or $7 round trip. So the fact is, I'm afraid that we're going to build this Pine Avenue Bridge, and the tolls are going to be so high that nobody's going to use it, and it's not really going to solve anything. Maybe it'll get me off your butt, but it's not really going to solve anything because it's not free like it used to be. And it's not fair. And it really isn't fair. Okay? And that's not your fault. That happened a long time ago. Okay? Secondly, I had a question. That was my statement. I get off my soapbox now. The cable strip barriers that go along I-65, and I agree with Representative Soliday. I-65 is dangerous. It should be 3 lanes. And one of the things that I know NDOT's done a really good job at is putting the cable strip barriers up to prevent crashes from going across the median. Now, I was wondering, is that a state law? Because I don't think it is. And I think it should be. I think that everywhere we have highway, there should be some type of barrier that prevents cars from going across the median. And secondly, once these are hit, because you can tell when they're hit, they go left, and basically, I don't know if they're any good anymore. Is there any type of urgency? Like, is there any type of requirement that NDOT has a certain amount of days to fix it? How long is that? Because I've seen them stay limp for weeks and weeks. And that scares me because somebody hit it, it saved their life, but the next person that hits is going to go right through it. I don't know if there's anything that can be written in the Indiana code that like gives you a certain amount of time to fix it so that there's emergency.
The urgency is just work, sorry.
No, I'm done, thank you.
It's in our maintenance work plan relative to what we do when they are hit and how we respond, along with everything else we're doing in that work plan. So between potholes, between our standard maintenance of mowing, doing whatever we need to do to get through that maintenance work plan, they're on there as well. You can't retention them. If they're not damaged to a point, you can't retention them. And we have crews that are doing it. But as far as time, if you have specific areas you want us to address more quickly, we can go those areas. But there's no specific Indiana administrative code that I'm aware of that requires a location, response location beyond what would be normal for garden. In fact, I think, as I recall, I heard more so than anything that a lot of them are provided via grant where they were placed, which would kind of speak to the point of requiring versus something that we're doing or some tests. They are effective.
Rick, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you speak up? Because I think there's a lot of folks that need to.
Forgive me.
And you're pointed this direction so the audience can't necessarily hear you.
Basically, we are responding to them, and if you find them down, let us know, because a lot of times you see them before we do, and we can get to them and program them into our maintenance work plan. And that's it. It's a part of ongoing maintenance more so than something we program into the maintenance work plan. In fact, it's something we address when we're not addressing what's programmed into the plan. So if you find them, let us know, and we'll get to it. In fact, I had it on my list because again, driving city 225, I've seen them. And it passed them to our highway maintenance department to get them on their list to take care of when they do find them. So the best thing to do, I think, is to let me know and or Matt Dykstra know, and we'll just get it into our working meeting.
I'm a strange person. When I go places and I get to travel, and I notice things like that, and I notice like when you go to other states, they don't really have a guardrail or a cable strip. Sometimes they'll have cable strips on both sides. You know, we usually have one to serve both functions, but it seems to me in Indiana we could do it better and safer. And I don't think those are very expensive at all. I don't know, you know a lot better than I do, but whatever the cost is, every time I see one that's laying limp, I know that we saved somebody's life. And, you know, there should be quick response from INDOT, all due respect. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I hope I'm not coming off the right. But if you see, Mayor McDermott shouldn't have to call and say, hey, there's a cable strip area lying limp on 65. You have people that are out there every day. It should be the kind of thing they're like, whoa, you know, somebody hit it last night, let's fix it right now. And maybe there should be stuff written into the law. I know Representative Soliday is the chairman of transportation. Maybe that's an initiative that can be taken up by the state because it saves lives. And it could be Representative Soliday's life that gets saved. It could be our family members that get saved. I mean, everybody has a chance to die on I-65. I totally agree. It's unsafe, especially in the winter. So thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions for Mr. Powers? All right, then we will move on to other business, which I have no specific announcements. Mr. Carnahan?
I would like to say that at my Tuesday night council meeting, we have a park that was called North Park. And Senator Sue Lansky was responsible for getting $75,000 to build the chamber building. And I amended the agenda Tuesday night. I invited Bill Lansky to the meeting, and I renamed North Park Senator Sue Lansky Memorial Park in her honor. And Bill Lansky came up and was very emotional in the response and gave me 2 pins, a state pin and the state senate pin, and really appreciated me doing that. And we're going to eventually get that sign changed, and I hope to have a ribbon cutting ceremony to dedicate that in Sue Lansky's memory, because she was from my town and she did a good job for the state.
Very good.
2 things. First, I don't know that you've had an... You want to applaud?
That was good. Good idea.
I don't know if you've all had a chance to meet our newest staff person, and not to embarrass him, but James Winters. If you don't mind standing up real quick. James is our new, I hate to use this term because it sets the bar really high, but he's our data guru essentially now at NERC. So he comes to us from the Southwestern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, Platteville, right? And he's hit the ground running, so just wanted you to see his face and get to know him, and he'll be working with you and trying to make sure that you've all got good data, good resources for your community. So officially welcome James from the position. And then, Mitch had something he wanted to.
Mr. Barloga?
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. You probably have received constant contact alerts from me regarding a survey that is now on our website regarding the Greenways and Blueways 2020 plan. It's a survey that I put together along with Kathy Luther, as well as the Northwest Indiana Paddling Association, to get people's preferences on our Greenways, Blueways, water trails in the region. It's probably the largest survey of its kind that we've ever attempted here at NERC for a 3-county region. We have been trying to blast all social media with it, as well as all of you, so I appreciate your patience. Both Mayor Milo and Mayor McDermott, I appreciate you actually taking the initiative and letting your own people know on social media about it. We have about 330 filled surveys within the last week, which is good. It's going to be open until October 1st. To be statistically significant, we need about 1,100. So that's what we're aiming for. We are also doing trail intercepts, as we call it, meaning we are going to the trails and talking to people face to face and getting them, if they can actually talk to us between sweating and running and biking, which is a challenge in itself, but to let us know how they feel about it as well. It's a bit of a shortened survey, but it definitely aids in the entire number that we need. So again, I encourage you, if you have the ability to get out the word on newsletters or on your city or community website or Facebook sites, please do so and link right back to us. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mitch, and I'm really excited with your new pin there that I see you've moved from cycling to pedestrians.
Most people who use trails are not on bicycles. They're either running, they're jogging, or they're rollerblading, so yes.
I just like that you're mixing it up a little bit.
Well, they want them together. Well,
Yeah.
I could do that, and I'm getting a canoe pin too.
Oh, excellent.
I don't know if you've noticed, but Mitch actually makes a special effort to color coordinate those pins with whatever he's wearing.
Above and beyond.
What lonely single men do
All right, that takes us to, well, actually, before I move to public comment, was there any other business that anyone had for the group?
I just
Mayor.
want to mention, Monday we went down to Indy and received our official certificates for our downtown on the National Registry for Historic Locations as well as state recognition.
Congratulations.
That was about a 2-year process. And, yeah, it was neat.
That's outstanding.
I think Gary, they had some kind of recognition for something in a few other communities, but we're the only city for a downtown recognition in the cycle. So.
Outstanding. Well done. Any other items?
Madam Chair, I reported last month about a project that we were doing in Schererville on Main Street, where Main Street's been closed for the last 5 weeks with a joint project with Munster, Dyer, and Schererville on a major storm water collapse that we had. And that project is wrapping up this week. Well, paving is going on as we speak, and we hope to have Main Street back open. It's been closed about 4 weeks now. Hope to have it open by the end of the week or first of next week.
Okay, great.
That project that ended up to be like a $1.8 million project with 3 towns and the river basin helping out.
Excellent. Well done on the collaboration on that.
There.
Yes.
Announcement of Hebron's 125th anniversary is this year. We have our block party on September 19th. I'd like to invite you all down. We will be burying a 125-year time capsule on the 19th. I had the honor of burying the 100th year capsule 25 years ago, so I'm still hanging around. So I'd like to invite you all down to celebrate with us. We've got fireworks and a lot of good food and everything else that day on the block party. So thank you.
Well, I think we've kind of melded other business and announcements together. So I do have one announcement that if folks are looking for activities this weekend, the Tour de LaPorte is available, and you can still come and partake in a whole host of activities throughout the weekend. The Friday night, it's a fundraiser for IU Health LaPorte Hospital Foundation, which helps the families of cancer victims and some of the cancer victims themselves. And Friday night is the trail run, and then Saturday there will be all of the walking and running events in the morning. So there's a half marathon, a 10K, and a 5K available. In the afternoon, they move on to cycling time trials, and then there's also mountain biking trail events. And then Sunday, they do all of the different cycling events, of which there is a smorgasbord of distances available that you can do 5, 10, 15, 25, 60, or 100 miles for the cycling. So far, I understand that we have 22 states that are being represented that are coming to participate in Tour de LaPorte. So it's a great event that if you're interested in any of those activities, we'd love to welcome you to LaPorte. You can look at all those, that there's a website for Tour de LaPorte that you can sign up for things. So wanted to mention that if you're looking for activities this weekend. Any other items? Then we'll move on to public comment, of which we have one individual, Mr. Nowacki from Gary, that is signed up. So, Mr. Nowacki.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. My name is Jim Nowacki. I'm a resident of the city of Gary. Most advice would give for effective public speaking, you start with a joke or anecdote, something humorous, puts everyone at ease. Effective public speaking, I'm going to forgo that because, quite frankly, I don't find it humorous. We started our meeting today with a kind of a joke about the conflict between the NERC meetings and the RDA meetings, and everyone got a good laugh out of it. Mr. Hollenbach is going to be there, and he's got his replacement here. Between NERC and RDA, you spend hundreds of millions of dollars. Hundreds of millions of dollars. The purpose of those meetings is not so the members or elected officials can sit around and backslap one another about how effective we're being. The purpose of that meeting is so that the public can attend that meeting. And I hope that doesn't go over your head. The purpose of those meetings, the RDA meeting and the NERC meeting, because you guys can do this over the phone, or you guys can just write a letter and make all these decisions. The purpose of the meetings is that they're public meetings. So when you have meetings like the RDA and NERC, that conflict, and I'm not blaming NERC because NERC has had this meeting, has established these meetings for years. RDA changed their schedule. Now, maybe I should not take umbrage, but sometimes I think it's simply because I attended the RDA meetings and the NERC meetings. And the reason I say that is because at a lot of meetings, the only member of the public who shows up is me. So when I'm critical of the RDA, and I am very critical of the RDA, hundreds of millions of dollars that I feel have been wasted, and I think we've gotten some support from the state in as much as they've changed the RDA of late. They say you can't just run around wasting money, willy-nilly doing anything you want with the money. The state said, we're going to hold you to a higher standard, not because they were doing a good job like they said, but because they weren't doing a good job.
Well,
and they were
appreciate
not
your
effective.
comments, Mr. Nowacki. I will ask that, I see that your topic listed on here is the agenda. So is
Yes.
there a specific agenda item
Yes.
that you wanted to reference in your
Yes,
comments
the
today?
agenda came up when we had this conflict, the conflict between NERC and RDA. So I'm going to, I brought this up to the NERC before. Now we've got all these elected officials.
Well, that's not an item on the agenda today.
Okay.
So I will ask.
Have
you
I said
please-
enough?
We understand your concerns.
Okay, and I think we have to tell RDA, if the mayor or town council officials, if they want to know what RDA is doing, you can send another staff member, but that's really not the purpose of the meetings. The purpose of the meetings is so that the public can attend. And the public cannot attend both meetings at the same time. So I'm going to urge the NERC to make a memo or something, because you're the two biggest organizations, you've got the biggest budget, you spend more money than anybody else. And if you do it at the same time, that actually disenfranchises the public from those meetings. So I'll leave it at that, and I wish I had a joke.
Madam Chair? Yes. Can we send a letter to the RDA? I think Mr. Nowacki has a point in that regard. We've had this meeting forever at NERC. Why don't we ask the RDA to hold it in the afternoon on the same day? I mean, it's not that big of an imposition for them, and that way if one of the mayors or one of the town leaders wants to go to an RDA and a NERC meeting, it would be possible. They interfered with us. We've been on this schedule forever.
I think it's we can have some communication that, we see the conflict that exists for then staff that are involved in this, that Mr. Hollenbach has a time conflict as well. So I think that we can have a communication about that.
Do you want to make it a formal motion, send a letter?
I don't know that we need to necessarily do something that formal. If that's what you'd like to do, then
I make a
I'll accept the
that we
motion.
authorize the executive director to send a letter to the RDA asking for them to change the time of their meeting so it doesn't directly conflict with our meeting. So moved.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second, and then I see discussion.
My question is procedurally whether it's kosher. So this isn't a full commission meeting, so just questioning Robert's Rules of Order as it's an executive board meeting, does the motion have to come from the executive board to be acted upon? And it's a question, it is not, I'm trying to make it be efficient and bulletproof, not?
Well, I can rephrase the motion that NERC recognizes the concern expressed regarding the same time of 2 meetings and requests, if it's feasible, that change the schedule.
So I have a motion, is there a second? And I have a second from 2 executive commissioners.
Technically, he has to remove his motion first.
No, really.
He's re.
I remove my motion as well. Thank you
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion or questions?
It's a letter, come on.
All right, with no further questions or discussion, all those in favor, please respond by saying aye. Any opposed, nay? All right.
Thank you.
Everybody will be submitted.
I will say I have broached this with Bill Hanna, so this will not come as a surprise.
Good. I think he's got a point.
All right, that was the list of public comments, and I think we pretty much covered announcements under other business, but last opportunity for any other announcements. All right, then at that point, this point, I will entertain a motion for adjournment from an executive committee member.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? We are adjourned.